Well, hi once again, everybody. It's another Friday, so you know it's time for another great edition of the New Vegas Sand Trap on Facebook Live. Glad to have you. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers. We want to welcome you in again. We have a tremendous show for you with a tremendous guy that you're going to find fully engaging and just a terrific guest with our interview with tour player Ken Green. As always, we're coming to you from live from the fabulous Rigel Studios right here in the entertainment capital of the world, and that would be Las Vegas, Nevada, of course, just steps away from the fabulous Las Vegas Strip. We're in springtime right now. It's a little bit windier than normal, a little bit cooler than normal. People are kind of walking around with allergies and getting sick and stuff, which reminds me that the show is brought to you by the Allergy Care Centers here in Southern Nevada. It's a simple 1, 2, 3 step to literally start brushing your teeth and get those allergies away. More on that a little bit later. And also brought to you by the best golf app in the business, Swing U. Download them for free, swingu.com. Got great golf tips. You can take lessons. They've got a GPS, wonderful, wonderful information. So swingu.com. Anyway, let's get right into it because we've got a lot of show today. Oh, before I forget, as always, well, no, I'm gonna save that for a little bit surprise for you by the end of the show. So let's bring up our special guest who I'm sure a lot of you are going to recognize, Mr. Ken Green. And let me tell you a little bit about Ken Green before we start our dialogue. Ken turned professional way back in 1979. I think they were still playing with gutta percha balls back then. And Ken's competed on the PGA Tour, the PGA Tour Champions, and also played a little bit on the Nationwide Tour. Ken has amassed 11 professional wins, which includes 5 on the PGA Tour, 1 win on the Japan Golf Tour, and other Open Championships. Ken was a member of the 1989 Ryder Cup, as you might remember. And then in 2009, Ken was involved in a motorhome accident, which led to his lower right leg being removed. Didn't stop him though, got a great prosthetic, still swinging away. And many people remember Ken on the golf course when he sometimes dressed from head to toe in what else? All green. So only made sense. But anyway, Ken, I am so happy to have you share some time with us here on the New Vegas Sand Trap. And I appreciate you coming on, my friend.
Oh, my pleasure, buddy. How's it been going?
It's been going good, and I want to get right into things because I've got a lot for you, and I want to kick it off, Ken. What do you think, Ken? What are the advantages, if any, of playing competitively internationally like you did? It seems today that a lot of players, or very few players on the PGA Tour, play internationally. You did, so I want to know what you think about doing that and how that made you into a better player.
Well, I think, the more you play all over, you're going to learn more about golf. Now, it sounds weird, because you're obviously professional. So at that age, say you're in your 20s, you kind of realize that you think you know everything when it comes to the game of golf.
Right.
But there are so many variables when you play the game. If you go to Japan or, South Africa or Hong Kong or Morocco where I've gone, or, obviously the British Opens, and you'll never know, the old expression, the horses and courses and all that kind of good stuff. You'll never know what maybe is your best game unless you try to play all over the place.
Great point.
And it's a little different today because of the technology, but it still varies. I mean, how does Tom Watson never win a golf tournament in this state of Florida back when it was the old style Bermuda?
Good point.
So maybe if he had learned how to play it earlier, then he would have been able to win on the regular tour.
Right.
So, you can only improve yourself the more you play all over the place.
I totally agree. And Ken, as a follow, was there a favorite part of favorite country that you like to play in for some reason or another? Did you have a favorite part of
You
the
know,
world?
I really enjoyed the course in Japan, in Miyazaki. It was a really good driving golf course, back when, driving was a little more important than it is now, let's say.
Yeah.
And smaller type greens. So you had to really have good hands around the greens, which back then, was probably my, strong suit, around the greens. So obviously, you prefer playing where you think your game's gonna, shine the most.
Right.
Morocco was wow, that was a trip. When you're 25, 26, 27 years old, it's a new world. Now, granted, I lived in Honduras for a long time, so I understood poverty and all that, but the culture over there in Morocco was, night and day from what we have here in the United States.
Yeah. And I've been there and I enjoyed it tremendously. Didn't have an opportunity to play golf, but it's great. Ken, you're spending most of your time competitive days on the PGA Tour Champions. How much longer do you think that tour is going to be around with fewer and fewer headliners opting to play that tour?
I actually think the tour's in trouble. And, I actually think golf's in trouble. But
It is.
in about 10 or 15 years, I think the senior tour is going to be limited to maybe 7 or 8 type events, and it's the question is, do the stars want to bother competing?
Right.
They're going to have tons of money.
Right.
When the senior tour first started, most of the guys, except for maybe a Jack or an Arnie, weren't well off. We just didn't play for the kind of money they do now.
Right.
So, I mean, Phil Mickelson, who's going to still think he can win in his 50s on the regular tour. So why would he play the Champions Tour?
I agree.
And then you just keep going back, to all the studs that are coming out. I just think I think they're going to have problems.
I do too, and I've been saying that I don't think the health of that tour has been really great for a while, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens, even going into the decade. Let me ask you this from your observation, Ken, because you know a lot of these guys personally, played against a bunch of them. Does anybody intimidate anybody anymore on the PGA Tour, Ken?
I'd find it hard to believe that anyone's intimidated by anyone anymore. I mean, it wasn't that you're intimidated. It's just that you kind of knew, they talk about Jack and then, Tiger. It's just that you kind of knew that if you didn't, play your best and you were up against Jack or Tiger, chances are you were going to get your butt whooped. And so what that does is it makes you try harder. And in the game of golf, once you cross that line of trying too hard, you play worse. And it doesn't matter what level.
Yeah.
You might not recognize it when a pro's doing it because he still gets it around and maybe can make pars and, but pros do it too. We all fall into that trap.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. Who were one or two of the players, Ken, when you were competing full-time on the PGA Tour that you really enjoyed playing with for whatever reason?
My hero would have been Fuzzy. I can't tell you how many times I would play with him, and the guy, would hit a bad shot and hits it in the water, and he's just smiling and laughing and talking to the people, and I'm like, Fuzz, how the hell can you do that? I'm more of my club's going to go in the ground if I hit it in the water, and it's I just marveled at how he could do that, and it was he's one of the few guys that understood that you have to play golf at whatever your personality is, you're going to play
Right.
your best.
Right.
And Fuzzy was carefree. And
Right.
so he played carefree golf. And when he played well, he did well.
Yeah.
And when he played poorly, he just, shook it off and then went to the next event.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the attitude that you got to have. Ken, let me ask you this before we take our first short break. I've said forever, Ken, that if I were a PGA Tour player, I'd rather have my record be 50 wins in regular tour events with no majors rather than maybe one major and 2 wins. What do you say?
I'm with you. I think the major are overblown because when you look at the so-called best players that have ever played, they have to have won both. The Andy Norse that have won 2 majors but only 3 events.
Right.
Or Angel Cabrera of modern times, who's won, I think, either 2 or 3 events, 2 of them majors. Or would you rather have Bruce Liskey or Wayne Levy, who's won 13 or 14 times? And, I think it's great, but I think it's unfair to those guys that have won a decent amount of tournaments that no one gives them credit for being as good as they are. And,
Yeah.
Majors before Jack came along, they weren't really majors. They were just considered big tournaments. No one came along and said, if you don't win majors, you can't be considered great.
Right.
That's all Jack Nicklaus. Jack
Right.
Nicklaus recreated this major frenzy.
Yeah.
And because he didn't want to play much.
Right.
I mean, it was he played everybody perfectly.
Right.
And now the whole world is majors is the only thing that matters. But now they have these idiotic world rankings. And Justin Rose, I mean, obviously he's a great player, but he's won 1 quote major, and that was 6 years ago.
Right.
And yet he's the number 1. And Brooks Koepka's won 3 out of the last 6 and is not number 1.
Right.
If majors are that important, he should be way ahead of everybody else in those points and stuff. And
I agree.
And so the media or the players or somebody, they've got to work together and decide what's more important.
Exactly.
Winning golf tournaments or finishing 5th every damn week.
Exactly. What gets my goat, Ken, when you hear players, especially, a couple of events before the major, like we're in Masters Week right now, and that's all they say. Well, and they say in so many words, I'm really here just as kind of a tune-up for, the major that's coming up. Or I'm just here at the beginning of the year to kind of knock the rust off my game. Or I just concentrate on the majors throughout the year and the other tournaments are kind of secondary. That really gets to me, Ken. What do you think about that? I don't think that's fair at all.
I agree with you 100%. And, again, this goes back to Jack and then Tiger, he's reinforced it. And it's a disservice to the game of golf, the other events. It's hard to win no matter what.
Right.
The biggest myth out there is that, when you get all the great players together, they're going to battle it off every week. And that's not how it works. Go back and look at Tiger's record in the majors with the ones where he's won. Mm-hmm. He wasn't going up against any studs.
Right.
Golf's hard. Just because you're one of the, quote, better players of the era doesn't mean you can just say, okay, I'm going to play well this week.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
No.
Again, it's easier now, but it still doesn't work that way.
Exactly, Gus. You're right. It's really, really hard to win. I compare it to football, Ken. Any team could beat any other team, on a given Sunday, and I think that's the way it works with golf tournaments. Anyway, stay with us. We're going to step away. We're going to take a short break, come back with our special guest, Mr. Ken Green, and we're going to leave you with a great Golfer's Mental Minute brought to you by Dr. Nick Molinari. So we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Welcome to the Golfer's Mental Minute. Today I'd like to read you a text that I received from one of my junior players. We were discussing how to prepare yourself before each shot and whether or not analytics or intuition would be the best. She's a great player, but she's over-analyzing. We moved her to using intuition versus overanalysis, and this is what she writes. From last session, you mentioned to text you when I found out the results of analytical versus intuitive decision making. I found out that intuitive helped me more than analytical did. While using just analytical, my distances were never accurate and they went short or over the green. For intuitive, I did not use my rangefinder and I just chose a club that I felt was best. The results were more accurate shots. I had a tournament yesterday, but unfortunately I had to withdraw because I was sick. Halfway through the round, I switched to analytical and it negatively impacted my game. We'll spend some more time discussing intuition in our next Golfer's Mental Minute. I'm Dr. Nick Molinaro for the new Vegas Sand Trap.
Look, if you play golf, chances are you've made a fairly sizable investment buying your golf clubs. So why take a chance on having your clubs damaged or even broken on the way to your next round of golf? Here's the perfect solution, known as the Golf Cradle. Using the Golf Cradle elevates the open end of your golf bag and suspends it off the floor of your truck or SUV and locks it in place. The Golf Cradle prevents the chance of damaging your club as a result of sudden stops, potholes, or swerving. Its weighted base and rigid bottom ensure the Golf Cradle stays put. Simply place your golf bag on the Golf Cradle and the protection arms automatically close down to secure your bag. Then simply tighten the straps and lock it in place. Simple as making a tap-in birdie putt. They have an awesome device like the Golf Cradle for under $40 to protect hundreds and maybe thousands of golf equipment is a no-brainer. Check them out and order at golfcradle.com. Don't wait, your clubs will love you for it. golfcradle.com. Oh, did I mention what a great gift this would be for the golfer in your life? golfcradle.com.
Did you know that over half our population suffers from allergies? There's a new, incredible way to treat allergies that don't involve shots, sprays, pills, or drops. All you do is brush your teeth. This new revolutionary treatment for allergies is only offered by Allergy Care Centers. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. You simply go to their office and speak to one of their doctors about any allergy history you may have. Then a simple finger stick is done with a few drops of blood placed on your patient card. It is then sent out to their laboratory where it's analyzed. This state-of-the-art test analyzes for 180 potential allergens. After consultation, a prescription is sent to their pharmacy where a specialized serum is mixed with toothpaste and you simply start to brush your allergies away. It's amazing! So stop suffering with your allergies. This is great for patients of all ages, especially kids. Call Allergy Centers at 702-331-5230.
All right, welcome back everybody to more of the new Vegas Sand Trap on Facebook Live. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, and Allergy Care Center's going on right now with all the wind blowing in Vegas and all of the other stuff. Give them a call. It's going to be awesome. We're spending time with our very special guest, PGA Tour winner, Mr. Ken Green. And Ken, I want to ask you, if you could design a golf course right now for, say, a regular PGA Tour event, what would some of the things be that you would do other than length? Because I still think you could have a golf course 8,000, 9,000 yards, and these studs would still shoot some pretty good numbers. But what would be some of the things that you would incorporate in your design to help slow these guys down?
Well, you know, it's actually baffling me why the architects haven't figured this out yet. I'm clearly no genius. Just look at my grades. But, you know, we have to eliminate a lot of the bunkers because bunkers are like stealing for us. And the average guy, it's a little nightmare. So we have to develop more grass bunkers. where your average guy just will chip it out and not think anything about it, where we know how hard it is to get up and down from a grass bunker or
Yeah.
just grass. The other is, I think they have to narrow some of the greens, both front to back and back to front, side left to right, and that will put more of a premium on accuracy and distance control. And then the perfect world, you have to mix it up. The strangest thing about architects is they want every hole to almost work together. I've been fortunate enough to co-design a couple courses, and it's like, I can't tell you the fights I used to have with the guy. I'm like, well, what do we care what this hole was? You have some greens that are big, some that are small, some that are thin, some that are wide,
Uh-huh.
some holes that are incredibly tight off the tee, some that you literally have nothing out there. You don't give, good players need landmarks. We use bunkers, we use trees,
Right.
we use hills. So
Right.
if you just did a flat hole and made it, say 470, which isn't real long today, and you made a thin green, I promise you, your average player would walk off the hole going, "What a crap hole! What was this guy thinking about?"
Yeah.
And a good player is going to shake his head because he's not going to be able to use anything that he's used to using.
Right.
And learning how
point.
to work that ball one way or the other when it's just a big blob out there. I know it sounds awful as a golf hole, but to get in, if you're really designing a course that you want to, get into the player's head, those are the best ways.
Yeah, that's well said. Speaking of that, Ken, for the average weekend mid-handicapper, what would you say would be the hallmark for him or her having a good experience on the golf course? Does it have to be conditioned? Does it have to be challenging? Does it have to be fair? What would leave them with a good impression of a golf course, Ken?
Right. Well, it's actually funny how you mentioned that because I have a book, Hunter of Hope, coming out, and I actually have a whole chapter on what we have to do to get golfers back in the game, because everyone's lying to themselves. We're losing golfers left and right.
Exactly.
Over half the golfers are 50 and older,
Yeah.
and there's not enough on the back end that are going to replace us.
Right.
And I hate to say this, but in 10 and 15 years, the courses are going to be going under left and right. So we have to figure out a way to get people out there. And this is the irresponsibleness of the USGA, PGA of America, and the Tour to some degree, is that we have to convince the powers to be that we have to make some rule changes and make it easier for people. Today's kids are used to beating up a computer in a week, maybe a month. Golf is hard when you first start playing it.
Yeah.
We got to allow them to tee the ball up everywhere until they get to a certain level. Even little bigger holes. Until you reach certain levels. There's so many different things that I would do. You have to make holes more enjoyable. I'm a huge believer that you tie in education with 9-hole facilities, and you bring the kids out there through the school system. They rotate. And you have these fun holes where you skip balls over water, or you hit through the windows, or you bounce them off of walls or rocks, depending on what's out there, what area of the country you are, where you can play with the natural topography of the lands. And
Right.
Kids have to want to be there. What kid doesn't want to hit a ball through a window, or skip a shot off the water, or ricochet off the thing? And then they'll fall in love with the game. But you got to have that. Right now, there's not enough kids coming.
Yeah.
I love golf. I would play it every day, all day, if I didn't have so much pain in my leg.
I know that. And Ken, you still realize that golf courses are closing every day. Players are leaving the game in droves for one reason or another. So what does Ken Green do as a stalwart of the game, as a tour player? What the hell do you do to grow the game, Ken? Everybody wants to grow the game.
Right. The First Tee is a wonderful organization, but they don't do enough. They don't work. They work with kids that want to play golf. We've got to get the kids that don't even want to show up to go there. And one thing that we all know as adults, and most young adults who, let's say they haven't had a child yet, we all know that when they get to that age of 12, 13, 14, 15, they want nothing to do with the parent for most part.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, young golfers will always play with their parents. It's probably because they're hanging around older people all the time, so
Right.
they get a better feeling.
Right.
They're more responsible. They're nicer. They're more respectful. But it's a home run. Now the parent, if he starts playing, will be able to have an ability to be with his kid when he's 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
And then the kid also has the ability. The kid doesn't know the parent's only out there because he wants to be with the kid.
Right.
And you have to sell that along with educational centers at these 9-hole facilities where you can make it almost zero to play.
Yeah.
You know, and if a parent shows up with a kid, it's zero to play.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
once you do that, I mean, think about it. We have enough billionaires. We have enough people to play golf. We have the companies, and we can do this. It just, people have to start thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
And I really believe that if cities, millionaires, billionaires would do that for 9 holes along with the educational center where kids learn how to work, because they're going to be working on the golf course also. They're going to be taking care of it. You know, it all works together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me, if they don't do something other than what they're doing, it's our own fault.
Yeah.
Golf's going to go back to where it was in the 20s, where only the top 2%, 3%.
Exactly.
They're always going to be around.
Yeah.
The rich people will always be here.
Yeah.
And they're going to play golf, and that's the only ones. And it's,
Right. And
it breaks my heart.
I agree with you, and that's a very interesting concept that you have. I happen to be a purist, so I'm not down with the bigger holes and the shorter golf courses or whatever. But that's a whole other discussion. Ken, please give me a reason to watch the LPGA on television.
Wow. It's a tough one. It really is. I hate to bash them because I guess it's about to come off as that way, but their stars are raised a different way than a lot of us are. And you obviously know what I'm referring to, and that's the Asian world.
Yeah.
And they just don't have the charm or, that Palmer in them, or that Tiger, they need somebody that people can relate to. Mm-hmm. And until an American comes along that people can relate to, whether it be an Asian who just has a personality or Hispanic or a white one, and until they come along and have some personality, I'm not sure why it's only the diehard golfers are probably the ones that are watching golf right now on the LPGA. And it's unfortunate because, there's a lot of good golfers, but they've got to promote better. And they're just not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've said for a while, and I have LPGA tour players on the show and LPGA tour instructors on the show. And first thing I said, you have to agree with me, the Americans will never dominate this tour again. Never. They don't have the fire in the belly. They don't have the culture, the mindset that the Asians have, and that's why they do so damn well. They really do, and I just don't think it's happened. I think it's partly that, and I think, to be very honest and blunt, Ken, I think it's the product overall, but that's another discussion. Before we take our break, again with you, Ken, your record in major championships, in all honesty, has not been that stellar. Why?
I was way too aggressive. I've had a lot of great rounds, in majors. And I was just dumb. I never understood the concept of not going at the pin, not hitting driver. And Why it didn't dawn on me, you know, as the years went on, you know, I started getting better and better. And yet it was like all I would put in my head is, well, I just didn't play well today. You know, even though I kept short-siding myself because I was too aggressive.
Yeah.
You know, you pay for aggression
Right.
in majors. And that's why Jack Nicklaus has been the record he had and why he finished second 19 times, because he was always playing in smart golf, you know, and Ken Green just didn't understand the concept of smart golf.
So you had to learn what course management was all about. And I agree with you. I think Nicklaus, and oddly enough, I think Tiger Woods has some of the best course management of two players that I ever saw.
They're head over heels. There's plenty of people that have been just as talented as those two. It's how they think on the golf course is why they are the two best that have ever played.
Exactly. I'm glad you agree with me on that. All right, Ken, stand by. We're going to again take another short break. We're going to leave you with a great swing tip from Director of Instruction of Swing U, Gary Gilchrist. And again, we'll see you on the other side of the break and more with our special guest, Ken Green. Stay with us.
Most of the lessons I give, and especially with tour pros, they really struggle to load into their right side. A lot of them strain their right leg, causing their weight to shift into their left side. So when they come through, they start backing out. So I created this motion drill to really give them the feeling of loading into their right side, feeling the weight there, and then unwinding through impact. So you take your dress position, you step, turn, swing through. It feels like Henrik Stenson when he shifts into his right side and then unwinds and hits those bullets of irons where you see week in and week out. So work on this drill, take that step, feel your body coiling, you can feel your right knee stays bent, and now you can feel your body unwind through impact. You're gonna enjoy this drill. Go home and practice these drills and send us your progress so we can give you a development plan that will help your game for the rest of your life.
Let's face it, if you're a golfer, you have lots of choices. Choices in equipment, choices in golf balls, and choices in the golf course you play. But if you're a golfer interested in joining a private golf club, well, you really but have only one choice, and that's the Tournament Players Club in Summerlin. Why TPC Summerlin? Simple. One of the most established private clubs practicing exceptional member services in Southern Nevada. TPC Summerlin has earned the reputation of providing its members with an award-winning golf course, home to the Shriners Hospital Tour event, a tour-quality practice facility, and an award-winning golf shop. Call TPC Summerlin at 702-256-0111.
If you're like me and play golf, let's face it, you want to get better, right? Getting better at golf means taking lessons, and these days you have a whole lot to choose from when it comes to instruction. Or do you? It seems everyone and their brother teaches golf. That's why you need to know who and why you're investing your time and money with. If you really want to improve as a player, the choice is simple. PGA Tour instructor Mike Malaska, long recognized as one of the top instructors in the country, is helping players on every level, every day. The online learning center is offered by MalaskaGolf.com. Mike's common sense approach to learning will help you overcome the issues you face on the course every time you play. Simply put, in order to play better golf, you need to understand it. Named National PGA Teacher of the Year, Top 100 Teacher of the Year for over 20 years running, Worldwide Director of the Nicklaus Golf Academies, well, you get the picture. Mike is awesome. If you're serious about improving your game, get started now. Check out MalaskaGolf.com and see for yourself what this program will do for you and your game. MalaskaGolf.com.
What's up, everyone? I'm Ryan Rustan.
And I'm Josh Kelly, and we're on the course with Swing U, the top-rated GPS, scorecard, and game improvement app.
That's right, guys. Get distances to greens, hazards, live wind speed and elevation adjustments, even shot tracking and club recommendations. You can track your scores, stats, and handicaps for free.
Check out our massive library of lessons and drills from top 25 teachers or get one-on-one training from your personal Swing U golf coach.
So join over 4 million golfers
And download the free Swing U app today.
All right, we have returned, everybody, and continue on our great conversation with Mr. Ken Green, who is sitting comfortably in his home in beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida. Ken, let me ask you, how did you get the idea for your blog that you do, which I think is really quite amusing, I must say, and has become very popular? How did you get started on that?
You know, after I had the accident, you know, a lot of people were trying to contact me and you know, find out, you know, how I was coping and how I was handling everything. And then a girl I was friendly with suggested, you know, I do a blog. And, you know, at that stage of my life, you know, I couldn't even tell you what a blog was. And so I just started doing it and just kept going from there. And it just, you know, it's not, I mean, I don't think my ideas are a little, you know, different than everybody else's, but if you listen to what other people tell me, I guess evidently I'm a little bit of a whack. But, you know, and my feeling is that it's you people that are a little whack, not me.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, I just said, I'm spitting everything out. I'm telling everything the way I feel. And you know, it's turned out that, you know, a lot of people like it, and that it's been fun.
Yeah, I imagine, and I like it because you're very honest. You say what's on your mind. You sprinkle it with enough expletives, which kind of keeps people engaged. So I like that. Ken, since your accident and subsequent losses, how has golf, or how much has golf been therapeutic in your recovery?
Oh, golf's meant everything to me. I mean, I love golf, and you know, obviously, you know, you lose your wife and your brother and you know, the leg. Okay, you know, you cope with that, and you come up with a game plan, and then a few months later you lose your son. It's like, holy Christ, you know, really. And if I didn't play golf, I don't, you know, because I have a, you know, pretty nasty nerve pain that I have to deal with on a daily basis, and it's I'm not sure I would even be here if I didn't play golf, to be perfectly honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just fabulous for a whole lot of reasons, and I understand what you're saying. You've got, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but you got something very exciting coming up, and that is the release of your new book, Hunter for Hope. Tell us, how did you get the inspiration to write it? Tell us a little bit about what it's about, and tell us where we can buy it.
Okay. Well, you know, a lot of it came from the blog where people, you know, kept saying you ought to write a book, because whether I like it or not, I've had an unbelievable run of in life, whether, you know, there's been a massive amount of bad and a massive amount of good. And, you know, the stories I tell in the book about the golf and my life on the tour and all that, I think are great. And, you know, I'm hoping that anybody who maybe lost a child or lost a wife or a limb, you know, who was sexually abused and all that other stuff that goes with that stuff is, you know, can realize, hey, you know, this guy actually failed. You know, I went through the depression and the suicide and all that, and yet he still got up and he keeps going. And to me, you know, that's my biggest hope, that, you know, if I can save one person from, you know, making a mistake or from not just giving up, you know how many people just go through life because they just go through life.
Right.
You know, they've lost their zip, they've lost their enthusiasm, they've lost their will. And, you know, that's my hope, along mixed with the fact that it's, you know, got some great stories and I think everybody will like it. And basically all you have to do is go to kengreengolf.com and everything's right there. So if you like Ken or Green and you like golf, I think I'd be stunned if you told me. If anybody is listening and buys it and they contact me after and said they didn't like it, I'll give them their money back.
Can you get inscribed copies autographed by you, Ken, if somebody wants?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Every order that goes through Ken Green Golf, I will sign personally.
Okay.
There's a little, you can either put what you want me to sign, or you can, take your luck and see what I'll sign for you.
Yeah, I would rather do that. I think that's more fun. And Ken, I assume my media copy is on the way to me pretty soon?
It is on your way. Actually, they're just putting them all together right now. So it will, I'll just send it out to Vegas and it'll get to you, right?
There you go. That's all you got to do. Just put Golf Guru, Las Vegas, Nevada, and it'll get there. Ken, before I let you go, when you were on tour, and your game was going a little bit south, which it didn't do very often, what would you do to get it in the house?
Well, I mean, that's the unknown. Well, first of all, I let the putters know that I will divorce them quickly. I've got many putters scattered in the bodies of water throughout the United States. But I always went back to the same style. So it's fighting through a golf slump's the hardest thing in the world, because, especially when you're playing professionally, because you're gonna keep working at it. You're
Right.
trying to figure out what's going wrong.
Right.
And it goes back into that cycle. What I was talking about earlier is the harder you try in this game, the worse it plays, and you end up getting in this vicious cycle, kind of like what Speed's going through.
Right.
He's got these demons upstairs that are
Exactly.
just banging on his head.
Exactly.
And he's trying to get out of them, and he's trying to get rid of them, but he's almost trying too hard. And that's that fine line. And any viewer out there will be able to recognize this. How many of them play better with 2 or 3 beers in them?
Right.
It's
Right.
when you quiet your demons, you've got a chance. But
Totally.
it's just you just have to not press so hard.
Right.
If I had to tell one thing, the more you press, the longer you're going to stay in that slump.
That's
Today,
exactly.
again,
That's
with the video, it's a little easier.
great advice.
But, you're still, if you keep pressing, you're going to stay in that slump longer.
Exactly.
Golf is hard. Once you recognize that,
you're
you'll
good.
be fine.
Yeah, and I think John Daly is probably the personification of that, having a few beers, and he always plays great anyway. But anyway, Ken, I want to thank you so much for spending all this time on the show. I wish you all the best. You're a great inspiration, and we would love to have you come back on the show sooner than later. And you're always welcome. Good luck with the book. We'll get in touch. We'll talk to people a little bit more about it. And again, I thank you for your time.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Ken Green, everybody, just a great guy. All right, before we leave, don't forget you can get in touch with us, golfgurulv@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook, of course, and on Instagram. Any way you want to get a hold of us, we're there for you. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the New Vegas Sand Trap on Facebook Live. For Ken Green, I'm Dennis Silvers. Want to wish you nothing but fairways and greens, everybody. We'll see you same time, same place next week. So long, everybody.